Hey there, people. This is Pranav, and here's another video about a fragrance. This is Prada. Everything falls apart. Prada Luna Rossa Carbon. And why am I doing a video on the Luna Rossa Carbon after all these years of making videos about Luna Rossa Carbon? Like for for starters, but also there are countless videos about Luna Rossa Carbon, how it's like a copy of Sauvage, and how it's like yada yada yada. You've heard like if you're into the fragrance community and whatever, you will hear a lot of things about that fragrance. It was very popular, but like sometimes almost hated and stuff like that. Even I was once like no, I don't want Luna Rossa Carbon anymore. I want Sauvage because it's just better and it's kind of the original, the starter. Well, what do I think about that on the long run? I think that Prada Luna Rossa Carbon is just an objective like as much as I can be objective. I'm not objective. Don't think I am, but it's just an objectively better fragrance. Why is Luna Rossa Carbon a better fragrance than Sauvage? Well, because it's better. Okay, no. Because Prada Luna Rossa Carbon is has a very long name, but also I think it has kind of an aesthetic that Sauvage misses. Okay, so Sauvage, the original Eau de Toilette, is a very good fragrance. Like, don't get me wrong, it is a very good fragrance. Does it have this kind of high class Dior sensibility that we could think it should have or whatever? No, it doesn't. This is the first thing. When you think about Eau Sauvage by Dior, this has the chic, like Parisian chic written all over it. It's beautifully like elegant and everything. But Sauvage, not that much. Sauvage is not that chic. And Sauvage is very playful, but it's very simple and it like kind of just smells good. Like and it's a very well done fragrance. I'm not saying anything against it. Other than it's just a very well crafted fragrance, but there's nothing more to it. Like there's no contribution to the brand with that. There's no nothing. It's just like yeah, get your wildest desires and stuff. And it's like, but how does that relate to the whole brand of Dior? And how does that relate to the consumers that are gonna buy this fragrance too? Are you really wanting that kind of audience? Like people that like, yeah, I am wild, I'm gonna party and stuff. I'm not. I have nothing against party and everything. Like, and it's just that it doesn't ring like the Dior bell enough for me. Whereas Prada Luna Rossa Carbon, I think that is a release that resembles Prada as a brand. And why do I say that? There is something about this fragrance that is very kind of elegant without being super over the top. Okay, so when Sauvage is like not very elegant. It's like it's supposed to be for the wild people. It's supposed to be like get wild with Sauvage and stuff. Prada Luna Rosa Carbon has this kind of dryness, this kind of evolving factor to it that just makes it very elegant without being complex. Okay, and a lot of like if you are a fan of uh, Yusha, like I think it's Yusha Prada's work as a like creative director for Prada for like years and years on end. I think she started in '88 or something. Like during the '80s, she has that sense of minimalist couture, especially for men, but also mostly for women. It's kind of like the same. Pretty minimalist, pretty interestingly still very elegant and still very beautiful and still very well done. And I think that as much as Prada L'Homme is, Prada Luna Rossa Carbon really embodies that whole aesthetic of being sleek, simple, and like minimalist at some levels, but still extremely elegant. Still have that still having that chic factor to it, that beauty within like the fragrance, and the fact that it evolves more. I don't know if you've ever tested going to the gym wearing Sauvage, where like compared to going to the gym with Luna Rosa Carbon, or like doing any activities in which you sweat with both fragrances. But even the Eau de Parfum by Sauvage, even like any Sauvage fragrance, don't respond that well to when you're getting sweaty. Whereas Prada Luna Rosa Carbon, it's perfect because when you go for a jog or you go lifting weights or whatever, it evolves in a way that the ambroxan just gets like completely amped up, and it just smells even better. So it gets better with sweat, which is something that ambroxan does. Okay, so Sauvage being an ambrox bomb probably does, but I think it's the mix of every ingredient. There is something very rigid about Sauvage that is more elastic with Luna Rosa Carbon. So that is another reason. That is a big reason why I prefer Luna Rosa Carbon, and why when I ended my I finished my bottle of Sauvage Eau de Parfum, I was like, I'm going back to Luna Rosa Carbon. Why? Because it just works, and I love going to the gym, and I love wearing fragrances, and I'm not gonna stop wearing fragrances because I'm going to the gym. So having some fragrances like that just gets it better when you sweat is magical beyond words. Also, like there is tons of activities in which you sweat. Sometimes, like I know that a lot of people will think about some like bedroom adventures, but there's also a lot of moments when you sweat. There are tons of moments when you sweat. It could be because you're walking, because you're missing the bus, because you're because it's an unexpected very high heat day today and you didn't expect it, so you were dressed up like more heavily, or your winter jacket is too hot, and or you put it inside for too long and you didn't have a rack, so you didn't unrack it, so you sweat, etc., etc. There are tons of situations where people sweat, and it's not like we shouldn't avoid situations in which we sweat. There are tons of situations like that, and it's a normal human process. So I think that fragrances that work so well with sweat are like precious. They're gems. And I think that is why I consider, even though it's very simplistic and minimalist, and it's like an Ambrox bomb with lavender, it's like there's a lot of lavender, and it smells flower, like a little floral but a little powdery, and the Ambroxan, it works and it gets compliments all the time. It just works so well. But other than that, it has this elegance, it has this chic. You could dress up with that fragrance. You can go to the gym still, and that is what is fun. It's a daily driver. Any situations are covered. It smells so good. It has like a fizzy Sprite vibe that people really like too. In the opening, the opening is nice. Everything is polished and well rounded all throughout the fragrance, and it evolves during the day as you're doing your normal daily activities, and in which you might sweat or whatever. That being said, this is very dangerous. Most of Broxton fragrances work very well with sweat. Uh, like I said, I think that Luna Rosa Carbon better than anyone, like any other fragrances with Ambroxan that I've ever seen. But I think that mostly they just work well with sweat in general. But this one, uh, like any fragrances then that will react to sweat, you need to be clean. Clean yourselves before wearing Ambroxan, because it will amplify that swing, that that bacterial body odor kind of a vibe if you don't wash yourself as much as you should, and you just when you should, like most people know. This fragrance is will also do that. So please beware that if you don't have a good personal hygiene, don't wear fragrances. But absolutely, if you don't have a good personal hygiene, don't wear fragrances with Ambroxan. It's gonna kill the vibe. That being said, this is why I think that Luna Rossa Carbon is actually a masterpiece by Prada, and I think it brings to the Prada narrative, which I think is even greater, which I think Sauvage lacks. The whole Sauvage line brings money to Dior, but doesn't bring to the whole Dior narrative and what the company is about. That is my opinion about that. If you're if you think I'm wrong, just put it in the comment sections. I'd love for people to be like, what are you saying? Have you seen that by Prada? This is not minimalist. Look at these clothes and stuff. And I'd be like, yeah, well, maybe, but I'm pretty sure that the aesthetic for Prada is kind of like a chic minimalist. There's the whole like ugly chic, like people coin the word also, like grandma kind of a vibe too. But I think most of the time it's kind of like minimalist, efficient, but also sleek and elegant. Uh, Let me hear what you think. Spread love and spray love. Bye bye.